Okay, so today we're going deep on something pretty complex that's been unfolding online.
Yeah.
We're looking at Candace Owens and her recent commentary on her own podcast,
Right.
specifically focusing on the kind of the fallout and the reactions from some big names connected to the Daily Wire and related media.
Yeah. And for this deep dive,
Yeah.
we have a really fascinating primary source,
Okay.
which is a transcript of Candace Owens' YouTube video.
Okay.
It's called I'm Just Asking Questions About the Daily Wire, Candace Ep 159.
Okay, cool. So we get to hear straight from the source.
Yeah, exactly.
What she's saying about what's been going on.
Yeah.
And really our goal here isn't to pick sides or anything like that, but to really try to understand the core disagreements and the different accusations being made and really equip you with a clear understanding of the broader context.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where does all this back and forth seem to have originated?
It seems like it goes back to Owens' departure from the Daily Wire,
Oh.
which she puts at about March 22nd or 23rd of last year.
Okay.
So that seems like a key turning point in the relationship.
Okay, so that happened, and then almost immediately after that split,
Yeah.
she recalls a video that Andrew Klavan released, who, of course, you know,
Yeah, the big name.
is connected to the Daily Wire. And it seems like that's kind of where the first sparks flew in this whole disagreement.
Yeah, that seems to be the origin of the first kind of spark for the current disagreement.
Okay, so what happened?
Well, according to Owens,
Yeah.
Klavan's video had some pretty serious accusations in it.
Okay.
She says that he called her anti-Semitic
Oh, wow.
and even tried to connect her to Nick Fuentes,
Wow.
which she very strongly denies in her recent commentary.
Okay, so those are some pretty huge accusations,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
Oh, and there's a particular phrase that came up then and is coming up now.
Yeah. What's that?
Christ is king.
Oh, yeah.
That phrase has been a big point of contention on it, both then and now.
So what was the concern with the phrase, Christ is king?
Well, the accusation then was that using it could be interpreted as anti-Semitic if it was directed at a Jewish person.
Right.
Owens says she never used it like that, though.
Okay.
In fact, she points out that she hadn't even tweeted the phrase in the months leading up to that whole controversy.
So it wasn't necessarily about her usage at the time, but more about the potential
Yeah, just the potential.
for it to be used that way, even though she wasn't.
Right.
And she also points out kind of a pattern in the timing of these events.
Yeah, she notes that these controversies always seem to pop up around Lent.
Around Lent.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those who might not know what Lent is.
Right. Lent is a time in the Christian calendar.
Yeah.
It's a period of fasting and reflection.
Okay.
It's often associated with a heightened sense of religious awareness.
Okay.
And Owen sees this recurring timing as significant.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So we have kind of the background.
Yeah, we've got the backdrop.
Yeah, the initial departure from the Daily Wire.
Right.
The first Christ is King discussion. Now, what seems to have triggered this more recent round of commentary?
Well, Owens points to recent comments from Daily Wire management and commentators.
Okay.
And specifically, she mentions her recent appearances on podcasts.
Okay.
Like Theo Vaughn's podcast and Ian Carroll's appearance on Joe Rogan's.
Okay, so she was on these podcasts, and it seems like her perspective on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, particularly her Christian viewpoint on the loss of children, has been a big factor in all these reactions.
Yeah, she brings up the loss of children on both sides.
Okay.
And, she's very clear that the death of any child, whether they're Jewish or Christian Palestinian or Israeli, is a tragedy.
Of course.
And she feels like this stance has put her at odds with some people who really align with the Zionist initiative.
Okay, so her stance on
The conflict there.
Yeah, on the conflict.
Has caused some friction. Yeah, definitely caused some friction.
Okay.
So a specific reaction that Owens mentions is a tweet from Jeremy Boring.
Okay.
Which came out the day after her podcast appearances.
Okay, so the timing is interesting.
Definitely.
And Boring's the co-CEO.
Yeah, co-CEO of the
Daily Wire. Okay, so what did this tweet say?
Well, he didn't name her directly.
Okay.
But the tweet talked about the embraced by so many prominent voices of demented conspiratorial anti-Jewish voices.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he called it a sad and alarming development.
Okay.
So given the timing and what Owens had been discussing, she felt like she was one of those prominent voices he was talking about.
Yeah. It's not uncommon to kind of read between the lines.
Right. Especially when there's...
Especially in these kinds of online disagreements.
Okay, so what was her response?
Well, she went on X.
X, formerly Twitter.
Yeah, formerly Twitter.
Yeah.
And she basically said that if people agreed with boring,
okay,
they should go ahead and follow him in the Daily Wire. Okay, so very pointed.
Yeah, she's drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah, really driving that wedge in deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then Ben Shapiro got involved too.
Yes. Ben Shapiro retweeted an article by Christopher Rufo.
Oh, wow, okay.
It was called The Anti-Semitic Influencer Problem.
Oh, boy.
And according to Owens, this article specifically named her as an anti-Semitic influencer.
Wow.
Who has gained a platform.
Okay, so now it's getting even more intense.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely escalating.
Yeah, we've got very direct accusations now.
Yeah. And that label of anti-Semitism is being used very explicitly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Owens is obviously questioning how she can still have a platform if that's what people think of her.
Right.
If they really believe that she's anti-Semitic.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the Christ is King controversy.
Right.
Because it sounds like that wasn't even really...
That wasn't really front and center.
Yeah.
Until all this happened.
Right. So what happened?
So Owens points out that no one was really talking about Christ is King until Andrew Clavon made another tweet.
Okay.
And this tweet criticized people who say Christ is king in America first.
Okay.
But then supposedly make excuses for the government of Iran.
Okay, interesting. So very specific.
Yeah, very specific.
Yeah.
And in the tweet, Clavon also referenced some historical anti-Semitic conspiracy theories.
Okay.
Some of which Owens has talked about in the past.
Oh, so she's got history.
Yeah, she's been in this territory before.
Yeah, of talking about these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that she would see that as directed at her.
Right, it's especially since he brings up Christ is king and America first.
Right.
And then these historical conspiracy theories that she's engaged with before.
Yeah.
So she sees a direct line.
Right. It's all connected.
Yeah, it's all connected for her.
In her mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then there's a Reuters study that she brings up too.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The study's titled, Thy Name in Vain, How Online Extremists Hijacked Christ as King. And Owens is really suspicious of the timing of this study.
Okay, so what's suspicious about it?
She says that this study came out when the phrase Christ is King wasn't even really trending.
Okay.
It wasn't a big topic online.
Okay.
And so she thinks that the study is being used to attack Christians by making it seem like this phrase is being weaponized by extremist groups.
So it's like they're trying to paint this phrase.
Yeah, they're trying to paint it.
In a negative light.
Exactly.
Even though it might not be used that way in reality.
That's her argument.
Yeah. Okay. And she also has some concerns about the study itself.
Yeah, she critiques the methodology.
Okay. How so?
Well, her main point is that they focus a lot on anonymous accounts.
Anonymous accounts?
Yeah, people using the phrase Christ is King online. But who are these people?
Right.
She questions whether that's really representative of anything.
Okay.
Can we really draw these big conclusions based on what anonymous people are doing on the internet?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's her argument. And then she gets into the backgrounds of the people involved in the study.
Okay.
So she's looking...
She's really digging deep.
Yeah, at who is behind this.
Yeah, who are these researchers?
Yeah.
And she points out that many of them are Jewish, including the principal investigator, Dr. Lee Jum, and Dr. Joel Finkelstein, who she identifies as a funder of the study, and whose father is a rabbi. She also mentions Jordan Peterson, who's another participant, and who has said publicly that he doesn't believe in Christ.
Oh, wow. So very different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And she also brings up Reverend Dr. Johnny Moore.
Yes, Reverend Moore.
Who is involved and affiliated with the ADL.
The Anti-Defamation League.
The Anti-Defamation League, and she refers to him as a token Christian.
Yeah. So she sees all these affiliations as very significant.
Yeah, and she's basically saying...
Yeah, she's saying this study is biased.
Yeah, that this is a Jewish-funded attack against Christians during the Lenten season.
Right, that's a pretty strong statement.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
She's really frustrated.
Yeah.
And to make her point, she brings up some of her own actions.
Okay.
Like what? Like her series on Harvey Weinstein.
Okay.
Who is Jewish and who she believes was wrongly convicted.
Okay.
And she also mentions her support for Justin Balan and others in a dispute, regardless of their religious background.
So she's saying, look, I'm not anti-Semitic.
Yeah, I support people of different faiths.
Yeah, I stand up for what I believe is right.
Exactly.
Regardless of their religion. And then the study itself actually names Owens directly.
Yeah, it does.
So it's not just about the phrase, Christ is King, generally.
Yeah.
They're actually going after her specifically.
Yeah, in a video associated with the study,
Okay.
they name her and Jake Shields as people who repeat hateful blood libels
Wow.
while using the phrase Christ is King.
Okay.
And they claim that by 2024, the most frequent word associated with Christ as King online was Jew.
Wow, that's a huge claim.
Yeah, very serious claim. Okay. And then Owens plays some audio clips of Reverend Johnny Moore.
Yeah, the token Christian.
Yeah, the token Christian. So what do these clips reveal?
Well, in the clips, Reverend Moore talks about his work with the ADL.
Okay.
And he's very committed to building what he calls a great wall of Christian Zionism.
A great wall of Christian Zionism.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Owens takes this as evidence that this whole thing is really about support for Israel.
So she's saying that it's not about anti-Semitism.
Yeah, she's saying that's a smokescreen.
Yeah, it's more about a specific agenda.
Yeah, about aligning with Israel.
Okay, so Owens is basically framing this whole thing as being driven by...
Yeah, by this desire.
Yeah, this desire to force a certain viewpoint regarding Israel. And the accusations of anti-Semitism and the focus on Christ as King are just tools.
Yeah, just tools in this bigger game.
In this bigger game. Okay, so how does she respond to all of this?
Well, she doubles down on her position that she won't put Israel first.
Okay.
She also questions why the Daily Wire is still so focused on her.
Oh.
They're not working together anymore, so why are they still going after her?
Right.
And she also directly addresses some of the things that people like Jeremy Boring have said.
Yeah, like what?
She brings up tweets from Boring where he talks about needing to figure out the motives of people who use religious language.
Okay, so she sees that as directed at her.
Yeah, definitely.
And then she actually throws down the gauntlet.
She does. She issues a challenge.
Yeah, what does she say?
She challenges Jeremy Boring, Ben Shapiro, and Jordan Peterson to a debate.
Oh, wow. Okay, so she wants to have it out in public.
Yeah, she wants to hash this out.
Yeah, what does she want to debate?
Specifically, she mentions the definition of anti-Semitism.
Okay.
And also the topic of pornography.
Pornography.
Yeah, and that might seem like it's coming out of left field.
Yeah, where does that fit in?
Well, she brings up past conversations that happened on the Daily Wire platform about pornography.
Okay.
And she specifically references Dennis Prager, suggesting that pornography could actually prevent adultery.
Oh, wow.
She even brings up a hypothetical discussion that Prager had about AI-generated child pornography as a way to prevent pedophilia.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it got very controversial.
Yeah, that's a very slippery slope.
It is.
Okay.
And she also talks about Ben Shapiro's view on the distinction between thought and deed in the Jewish faith when it comes to pornography.
So she's basically saying there's a difference between what you think
and what you actually do.
And what you actually do. And she's contrasting these older conversations with what she sees as their current stance.
Yeah, which is much more against pornography.
Especially with people like Andrew Tate.
Yeah, she sees a double standard there.
Right, okay. So she's calling them out.
Yeah, she's pointing out what she sees as hypocrisy.
And she also addresses some tweets from Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson, who Owens reminds us is not a Christian.
Okay.
Called her a true physical pretender.
A true physical pretender.
Yeah, he misspelled physical. And he accused her of using her devotion to Christ for self-elevation.
Okay.
And of using God's name in vain.
Wow.
And he even quoted New Testament verses.
Wow. So he's using scripture.
Yeah, to criticize her.
To criticize her.
Yeah.
And Owens is obviously taking issue with the fact that he's not Christian.
Right. It's like, who are you to judge my faith?
Yeah, you don't even believe in this.
Yeah, you're not even part of this.
And then Owens ends by mentioning the support she's gotten.
Yeah, she reads some comments from her audience.
Okay.
Who were standing by her.
Okay.
And she says she's committed to speaking the truth.
Okay.
And that she's willing to have this debate.
Okay.
And her final point is about the timing of all this.
Yeah, the timing of the criticism.
Yeah, she thinks it's all very coordinated.
Okay, how so?
Well, she points out that all these articles and comments came out at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So she thinks there's a deliberate effort to take her down.
Okay, so it's not just a coincidence.
It's not random.
It's a concerted campaign.
That's what she believes.
Wow. Okay, so to sum up, you've heard Candace Owens' side of the story.
Yeah, her perspective.
Yeah.
On this whole situation.
Yeah, the accusations of anti-Semitism, the controversy over the phrase, Christ is King.
And that's the whole study.
Yeah, the Reuters study, and her concerns about it. And you've heard her responses to Boring, Shapiro, and Peterson, and her challenge to debate them.
Right.
So this deep dive really brings up some important questions.
Yeah, it does.
It's like, what does it mean to be anti-Semitic?
Right.
Especially when you're talking about Israel.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's a really complex issue. And how should we interpret religious language in the public sphere?
Yeah. Is it okay to say certain things?
Right? Are there limits?
Yeah, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, and how does someone's personal faith,
Or lack of faith.
yeah, affect their views on geopolitics?
And how they criticize other people's religious views.
Yeah, and ultimately, what does all of this tell us about how we talk to each other online, especially about these really complex and sensitive issues?
Issues of faith and politics and identity.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It is.
So we'll leave you with that.
Yeah, for you to ponder.
Yeah, think about it.
And maybe come to your own conclusions.